sort of question that gets asked, I think, commonly is that, is mental health a organic problem because it responds to medication? Or we know from our tradition the existence of the jinn, and it often clouds decision making and stigmatization and diagnosis. What's the Sheikh's perspective?
Again, got whole papers on this, but put simply, there are two approaches to health and pathology. One is called the medical model, the other is called the biopsychosocial model, right? So those answer questions, what does health entail and how is it acquired? So, again, I use the caricature of the surgeon. What's the problem? The problem is, a swollen appendix. What's the answer? Get rid of the appendix, right? Done, simple. That's how you surgeons work, right? Don't ask questions, just, yeah, right. The other approach is this in other words, deal with the tissue pathology. Health is the absence of tissue pathology. Illness is tissue pathology. Get rid of the tissue pathology, you're back to health again. Even though you may not feel any better, but you're back to health again. The biopsychosocial approach is really about that health is about the absence of distress. And distress comes about in one of three ways. In other words, disease. What is disease? Disease, linguistically, is a state of dis-ease. Literally, that's not a pun. Literally, dis-ease. It's the absence of afia. And what are the factors that bring about dis-ease? Some are biological, loss of function, pain, and so on and so forth. Some are psychological, i.e. the way we think about things and beliefs and so forth. Some are social, as in our poor brother's, wife's mental health, for example, affecting his own, right? But what is going on around us? And that is a very holistic model, and the way that you identify biological factors, psychological factors, social factors, okay? And you try to ameliorate and mitigate them. And that's how you bring about the dis-ease becomes a state of ease, all right? Islamically, what is fundamentally added to that, on this basis of what is the human, what is the thing that you are treating, the organism or the entity that you are treating? It is a soul in communion with God. It's in a process of constant conversation with al-mutakallim, the speaker, right? The one who's always communicating with you. He communicates with you, you communicate to him, right? So what does it add? Bio, psycho, socio, spiritual. It adds the fourth fundamental dimension of human nature, which is the human in terms of their spiritual status and or their spiritual health. And just as there are factors in biology, in psychology, and in your social circumstances, factors that mitigate towards a state of dis-ease, and other factors that mitigate towards a state of ease. Similarly, from a spiritual perspective, there are factors that mitigate towards dis-ease and factors that mitigate towards ease, and it's about bringing that into the picture. The question I get asked more than any other by Muslim patients is, Sheikh, Akhi, right, depending on, it's never doctor, it's Sheikh, Akhi, whatever, is it a mental health problem or is it a spiritual problem? Right? And what I say is, you're asking the wrong question. Your question has one word wrong, and that word is or. Or. Why does it have to be either or? Why can't it be both and? If you woke up one morning in a state of deep depression, and at the same time you lost your job, would I say that sorting out your depression with antidepressants, and I'm not saying antidepressants don't work, by the way, they don't work the way we think they work, right? Sorting out that will overcome the fact that you've lost your job? Or am I saying, no, get a new job and your depression will go away? Not necessarily, because it's sophisticated, it's complex. So bring this into the picture. This is what I do in my practice. I bring all of these things together. I have patients who see me for severe religious OCD, and I have indigenously Islamic psychotherapeutic models to help them with that. And at the same time, I still say to them, for some of them, not everyone, but some of them, you need to be on antidepressants. Because this is, it's like you're trying to scoop water out of the bucket. You're drowning in the boat. You're trying to scoop water out with a bucket, but you're not filling the holes in the boat. As much as you scoop out, more water will come in. You've got to fill the holes in the boat and then scoop the water out. Okay? So from a spiritual perspective, and I have a whole presentation on this, my jinn presentation, which is that there are 4 factors in relation, in terms of pure, the thing that you always get asked about, right? The pure spirit. What about the jadoo stuff, man? Come on, man. Give us the goss on the jadoo, right? The fact is, there are benign spiritual influences on the human, and there are malign spiritual influences on the human. From a malign perspective, in order, it goes nazar, hasad, sihr, and jinn. That's the order. And from a benign perspective, there are 4 forces. Okay? There is dua. Okay? Firstly, there is the nazr karam. The nazr karam is the opposite of bad nazar. Is good nazar. Right? You look at your parents with love, and you look at your children with love. You're giving them good nazar. Right? That. The opposite of hasad is dua. And the opposite of hasad is dua. Right? Somebody trying to cause you spiritual harm is counterbalanced by things that actively bring about spiritual benefit. The opposite of sihr, the opposite of sihr is the malaik. The opposite of sihr is the awrad and wazaif and so forth from the Quran. Right? Bad words are mitigated against or overcome, neutralized, perfect. Neutralized by good words. Right? By good words, which is the words of Allah. In the Quran, these things have a power. And the influence of the jinn, and I'm not saying the word possession, the influence of the jinn is counteracted by the influence of the malaika. By the influence of the malaika. So these 4 forces balance, and then on top of that you have a 5th, the great spiritual force, which is that everything that you experience is part of Allah's rububiyyah towards you, including your experience of hasad, or your experience of jadoo, and so forth. Allah has permitted all of this to happen to you to grow you. And the thing that people, is this analogy of growth, and I'm sorry I'm taking time here, but this is, again, it's not a medical thing, this is a human thing. It's incredibly important to understand this. There are 2 great analogies, cognitive metaphors, in Surah Fatiha about the human-divine relationship. The second of them you all know, and that is Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim. We are travelers, there is a path, Allah is at the end of that path. You all know this, you all know that now. The first great cognitive metaphor of the human is not that. It is Rabb. That Allah is Rabb al-Alameen. He is the grower of creation. He is the cultivator of creation. And once you understand that you are not, from one perspective you are a traveler, from another perspective you are a plant. You are a plant, you are a flower, you are a tree. You do not know what type of plant you are. But Allah does. You do not know what soil is best for you to grow in. You do not know. Some plants require a lot of water. Some plants will die if you give them too much water. Some plants grow well in sunlight. Others grow well in the shade. Some grow well in a desert. Others grow well in the tropics. You do not know what type of plant you are. But the Rabb does. The gardener does. And He is growing you for His garden. And He knows what you need. Doesn't mean it's going to be pleasant, but He knows what you need to help you grow. Allah make it easy, inshallah.